Boundary integration failure describes a structural condition in which a system loses coherence because boundaries that should preserve distinction are forced to merge. The problem is not separation, the problem is overfusion. A system may try to become more coordinated, flexible, or responsive by softening role boundaries, merging instruction layers, compressing authority zones, or letting several logics operate in the same space. At the surface, this may look like integration. Structurally, it may be boundary dissolution. The central distinction is simple. Integration is not boundary dissolution. A functioning system needs boundaries that are permeable enough for coordination, but distinct enough to preserve role, instruction type, authority scope, risk location, and responsibility. Functional permeability means flow without collapse, and distinction without fragmentation. Boundary integration failure occurs when flow is gained by sacrificing distinction. A service role becomes an enforcement role. A reviewer becomes an accountability carrier. Assistance becomes judgment. A summary becomes evidence. A confirmation becomes authorization. The system still appears to function, but its parts no longer know what type of action is being performed. This is why the model focuses on role merge overload and instruction field collapse. Role merge overload occurs when one actor, office, interface, tool, or subsystem is forced to carry several incompatible roles at once. The overload is not only workload, it is logic load. The role is carrying incompatible meanings. Instruction field collapse occurs when a system can no longer tell what kind of instruction it is giving or receiving. A statement may function as a rule, suggestion, warning, permission condition, courtesy phrase, risk transfer, or escalation signal at the same time. When instruction type collapses, action becomes unstable. Actors do not respond to structure, they respond to pressure. Urgency becomes authority. Tone becomes command. Politeness becomes obligation. Interface language becomes decision force. This is boundary pressure inversion. A boundary should process pressure, but under boundary integration failure, pressure reshapes the boundary. The system becomes person-dependent. People or local agents must decide what the boundary should have made clear. This may look flexible, but flexibility is not dissolution. Flexibility preserves type while adapting movement. Dissolution removes the type that makes movement interpretable. Boundary integration failure is relevant to institutional workflows, AI-mediated systems, agentic toolchains, human-in-the-loop review, platform governance, compliance environments, interface design, and multi-layer control systems. In AI-mediated systems, the failure may appear when assistance is treated as judgment, when a model output is treated as evidence, when a trace is treated as accountability, or when a human confirmation point absorbs responsibility for an unclear action path. In institutions, the failure may appear when service, enforcement, discretion, risk management, compliance, and repair are compressed into one unstable role. The structural question is not only whether the parts are connected, the question is whether the parts remain differentiated enough for integration to mean anything. Boundary integration failure should not be applied to every case of collaboration, flexibility, coordination, or role overlap. It does not describe ordinary cooperation where roles remain explicit, authority is visible, instruction types are clear, and responsibility is assigned. The model identifies a narrower condition. Boundary integration failure occurs when coordination is attempted through overfusion, and the system loses distinctions required for stable action. Naming declaration. Boundary integration failure originates within meta-writing ecology as a structural model for describing how systems lose coherence when boundaries are forced to merge. Here, boundary means the structural limit that preserves distinction between roles, instructions, authority zones, risk domains, layers, contexts, or functions. Integration means coordination across differentiated boundaries. It does not mean boundarylessness or collapse into one plane. Failure means the loss of functional boundary distinction required for stable coordination. It does not mean that all integration is harmful or that all boundaries should be rigid. This model is not derived from sociology, organizational behavior, role theory, systems engineering, human-computer interaction, AI governance literature, management theory, or institutional design literature. Those fields may intersect with it, but they do not define its bloodline. The model belongs to meta-writing ecology as a structural account of how overfusion turns coordination into ambiguity.